Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half hour or so. And we'd really like to thank you on behalf of Jays from the Couch, you, the audience, the viewer, the listener, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Whether you're tuning in to my show or the main podcast on Monday evenings or the On Fact Circle Steve Fact Show, which is Tuesdays at 6 p.m., hopefully all three. And whether you watch us live and maybe you send in a question or comment here or there, makes it just that much better having the show, the participation. Or if you catch the archive version, download it as a podcast or watch the live video. We really appreciate you taking your time to watch and listen to us. Before I get started today, I want to take a minute to talk about Jays from the Couch's exciting partnership with BetStamp. BetStamp is the best sports betting tool on the market, and it's designed to help others increase their profits and easily manage their betting process. BetStamp aids users in determining what to bet on, where to bet it, and how to track it. BetStamp is dedicated to serving all types of bettors, whether you're a recreational bettor, a sharp bettor, or somewhere in between. The BetStamp app is available to download in the App Store and on Google Play. The key features of BetStamp are line shopping. By using the BetStamp app, you can line shop across all sports books to ensure you're finding the best available value for each wager and to save yourself some valuable time. Verified bet tracking. BetStamp allows you to track verified bets across all major sports books. This allows you to keep track of your different accounts and build a more solid portfolio as a bettor. So that's what it looks like there. And most importantly, increase your profits. That's what it's all about, right? Following winning bettors, you're able to follow other BetStamp users to be instantly notified when they're tracking picks. Following winning users in the BetStamp pick marketplace is a great way to find new bets. Download the BetStamp app today and use the code JFtC to sign up. All right, then. Happy Tuesday evening, Blue Jays fans. How's everybody doing? Are you getting excited yet? Spring and spring training and hope springs eternal. Today is the official day when pitchers and catchers have to report to spring training, though if you've been following on Twitter, watching on Sportsnet or anything like that, you already know that there's a lot of players already in camp. So, and not just pitchers and catchers, but a lot of the position players are already there too. So it's great that a lot of guys are there early, that they want to get an early start to things. They're eager to get to work. They're eager to have a really good season for our Toronto Blue Jays. And hopefully this can be one season that we can all remember very fondly when it's all said and done. But we'll see about that. Okay, so leading off, as always, I usually talk about transactions since the last show. There haven't been a whole heck of a lot transaction-wise. Matt Gage, I believe last time I talked about him, he was designated for assignment to make room on the 40-man roster for Chad Green, who they signed as a free agent. So Matt Gage, he was actually claimed by the Houston Astros. So all the best to him. Wish him all the success over there, except not against the Blue Jays, but against everyone else, please. And so sort of a curious move in a way that here's the Toronto Blue Jays who are really, they're trying to find a way to take the next step as a team. I mean, over the last 3 seasons, they've been to the playoffs 2 of the last 3 seasons, and the one season that they didn't make it, they missed out by 1 game. So that's great. We know that this team is capable of getting to the playoffs, but now they want to win in the playoffs. And Matt Gage, who they DFA'd, was now claimed by the reigning World Series champions. So it seems a little bit odd. He wasn't good enough to play for the Jays. but now he's on the 40-man roster of the defending champions, and all the talk that there's been about their unbelievable bullpen. So it's really unfortunate they couldn't find a way to hang on to him, even if it was just for depth. But regardless, again, Matt Gage, all the best. Yeah, so it actually, the Blue Jays, as we know, they have two pitchers who've had Tommy John surgery last year, and they're not going to be ready until at the earliest June, and we're probably looking at a little later than that, maybe. So that's Chad Green, who I just mentioned, as well as Hyun-Jin Ryu. In the offseason, you're not allowed to have players on the 60-day injured list. So they either have to be on your 40-man roster or they're exposed, and other teams can claim them. As of yesterday, it was the first day that teams are actually allowed to put players on the 60-day IL, and this could be significant, excuse me, because the Jays clearly have two candidates to go on to the 60-day IL, thereby opening up space on the 40-man roster if and when they do. And that means that if there's still an addition or two out there, that now would be a really good time, say a free agent that they want to sign, Robbie Grossman, please. That's high on my wish list because he hits left-handed pitchers very well. But we'll see. We'll see if he ends up somewhere soon, hopefully with the Blue Jays, and that could really put the icing on the cake of their off season. But we'll see. In any case, they could add up to two players and utilize the 60-day IL and not have to risk any more of their roster and organizational depth. So something to think about there. Excuse me just a moment. So yes, when normally speaking, when I talk about transactions, the type of transactions I mean are players being added to the Blue Jays organization or players leaving the Blue Jays organization, whether that be by free agency, via trade, designated for assignment, being claimed on waivers, them claiming someone on waivers. There was a transaction in the last couple of weeks that doesn't fit any of those things, but I think it's worth a bit of a mention. And that is the fact that Bo Bichette and the Toronto Blue Jays came to terms on a 3-year contract. So, as I'm sure you all know, the Blue Jays had several players who were arbitration eligible this offseason. Bo Bichette was one of them, and all of the others actually avoided arbitration and signed 1-year contracts, including Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, he signed a fairly nice 1-year contract, $14.5 million. Still, that's what he signed for. So it looked as though Bichette was heading to arbitration, and I mean, it's something that it's a necessary evil, so to speak. If you can avoid it, it's probably better to do so. If you can make both sides happy, meeting somewhere in the middle, and you don't have to go through that arbitration process, which from my understand can be rather contentious. And Bichette himself spoke about it in an interview. He said he was glad to have avoided arbitration and so forth. So, I mean, it's a 3-year deal. Bichette was under team control for 3 years anyway. So this contract doesn't do anything to extend his time with the Toronto Blue Jays. And really, that's something that I hope does end up happening. What it does do is it guarantees him an income for the next 3 years, hopefully keeps him happy, and hopefully makes the team happy as well, and maybe paves the way for another long-term deal down the road. I can only hope. Well, we'll see how all of that happens. But anyway, so that's done. So they didn't have to go to arbitration with anyone this season or this off season, and now spring training is here, and they can focus on getting ready for the season and having a really good 2023. So, for the heart of the order, We've got the season coming up, obviously, spring training, as I said, and great to see pictures and video clips of sunny Florida, where, by the way, I'm going in a few weeks, and I'm really excited. My husband and I are going down for 10 days, and we're going to hopefully have some nice weather. Definitely get to see some baseball, unlike last year. Went to Florida for a week, and the first spring training game ended up being the day we came back. However, water under the bridge. But yeah, I wanted to focus on a few particular Toronto Blue Jays players. They need a team. They need a team from top to bottom. And sometimes it's the moves that look like minor moves on paper that end up paying huge dividends. So I'm not singling anybody out, as in these three guys that I'm going to talk about this evening are the most important. They're more important than anyone else. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just there's three guys that I've been giving some thought to, who I'm fairly confident that we're going to see some good things from these guys going forward in 2023. So the first one, no surprise, a big favorite of mine, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So we've heard about him long before he ever took the field as a major league player. He's the oldest son of Vladimir Guerrero Sr., who's in Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. And we heard all about young Vlad Jr. and his talents, that he was just as good a hitter as his father, but maybe a little bit more patient. But Vlad Sr., I don't even know how many walks he had, but couldn't have been that many. The way he would swing at balls way outside the strike zone, and the uncanny thing is he would hit them more often than not. But Vlad Jr., everybody always told us he was a generational talent, and we couldn't wait to see it actually happen. So he came up in 2019. And he had a decent rookie season. He had his ups and downs, had a weighted runs created plus of 106. He played third base back then, unfortunately, not very well. I think his error rate, his outs above average, were dead last for all major league infielders. 2020, as we know, that was the pandemic shortened season. They played 60 games regular season. Weighted runs created plus was a little bit better. It was 110. They also moved Vlad over to first base, and he still wasn't really that great at it, unfortunately. 2021, we saw a breakout season from Vlad Jr. He finished second in league MVP voting to Shohei Ohtani, who's a phenomenal player in his own right. But many other seasons, Guerrero Jr. would have a league MVP to his name already. His numbers were good enough that he could have won. It's just that what Ohtani did was it's almost historic. I mean, he excels at being a pitcher and a hitter. So, Junior, so he had weighted runs created plus of 166 in 2021. And he worked on his fielding and became a much better fielding first baseman. He also made his first All-Star game appearance and actually captured the MVP award for the All-Star game. So he does have an MVP, not the one that I thought he'd have, but he'll have at least one of those before it's over. I'm sure of that. 2022, unfortunately, he took a little bit of a step back, still had a good season, just not as good as it had been in 2021. So weighted runs created plus of 132. Also won his first career Gold Glove at first base. So congratulations, Vlad. And honestly, I appreciate stats. I'm an accountant. I am an accountant by trade. So I enjoy math. I'm not saying that I don't believe in numbers, but I really think there are certain things that can't be quantified. And when you look at outs above average or defensive run save, maybe Guerrero's numbers defensively didn't jump out at you all that much. But when you watch him day in and day out, and all the errors that he saved his teammates by saving bad throws. I mean, honestly, I have no doubt whatsoever that he deserved that Gold Glove. So fantastic performance there. Keep it up. And I think we're going to see something special from him in 2023. We haven't seen the last of the MVP caliber Guerrero Jr. I think he's going to have a season that's around what he did in 2021, or you know what? I wouldn't be too shocked to see him exceed that. And those might be bold words, but I believe in this young man. I believe in his talent. I think a full season of John Schneider, even though I like Charlie Montoyo, sometimes you have to have, sometimes you need to see a replacement in action and what they can do to make you appreciate that maybe what you thought was good wasn't as good as you thought. I don't know. Dolcamaris Vlad Sr. had 9,059 career plate appearances, 737 walks. I noticed he had 103 hit by pitches. Wow. Thank you for those stats. 250 intentional walks. Okay, so you look at the unintentional walks, and what is that walk percentage? It's not very high. I'd have to calculate that. I don't. Yeah, have to have a look at that sometime. But thank you for that information. Very helpful. Yeah, so I'm expecting a really big season from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in 2023. I think the combination of having John Schneider at the helm, and I think having Don Mattingly as bench coach is going to help so much. I mean, for all that he's done in his career as a player, he succeeded. I mean, he was a league MVP himself. So whether he can do something and help Guerrero Jr. or even one or two other players on the team maximize their potential, I have a very good feeling about it, and I'll be keeping a close eye on it. So that's player number one, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so my next player to watch, someone I'm feeling very optimistic about, and that's Jose Barrios. So Jose Barrios, we know the story. The Blue Jays traded for him at the trade deadline in 2021 because they were going for it. And Barrios has been in Major League Baseball since 2016. Prior to coming to the Blue Jays, he was with the Minnesota Twins. He had a forgettable season in 2016, but that was several years ago. ERA was just over 8. Since then, you look at his numbers year by year by year, and this man has been very solid when he takes the mound. Earned run average by year, 389 in 2017, 384 in 2018. 368 in 2019, and even 4 in 2020. But again, stats in 2020, they could be skewed a little bit either high or low because the season was only 2 months, and it might had it played out for a full 162. You don't know. Might have been a little better, might have been a little worse. Never really know. And then in 2021, his ERA was 352. We don't really know what the heck happened to him in 2022. Everybody knows that he had a subpar season. I have kind of a different way of looking at his season than some people do. When I look at his results game by game, I still say that the runs he allowed about 2/3 of the time that he went out there were pretty respectable, that he ended up minimizing the damage. He gave up a fair bit of hard contact, I know. But yeah, he managed, whether it was some help from the defense or whatever, to be fairly successful about 2/3 of the time. The other third of the time, I mean, I don't know. When he was bad, he was very bad. He pitched on opening day and didn't make it out of the first inning, and that really skewed his numbers. His ERA for the season was 5.23. I haven't given up on Jose Barrios, not by a long shot. The Blue Jays signed him to a contract extension after 2021. He's going to be around. It was a 7-year deal. He's going to be around for another 6 years. And I refuse to believe that the next 6 years are going to be, oh God, it's a Barrios start. Do I even have to watch? I think that next year he's going to return to form. Again, I don't really know what was going on. I don't want to start spreading a bunch of unconfirmed rumors. I've heard whispers here and there that maybe it wasn't a great season for him personally off the field. I don't know. And if that affected his game on the mound, I mean, he's a human being. One of the things I always say about baseball and about baseball players is they're not machines, they're humans. And if there's something going on in their lives, maybe it affects other areas of their life, such as their performance on the mound. So I wish Barrios all the best, nothing but luck. And I think we're going to see a much better version this coming season and for the next few seasons. I'm very hopeful about that. And right now, I'm hoping for some water. All right. My final player of note, and this could be met with a mixed reaction, and that's fine, is Yusei Kikuchi. So Yusei Kikuchi, the Blue Jays signed him as a free agent for 3 years. Unfortunately, his first year in a Jays uniform overall left a lot to be desired. He was in the rotation for about the first 2/3 of the season, or maybe a little bit more than that. And he had a fairly good month of May, if I recall. Other than that, you just didn't know what to expect from him when he went out onto the mound. And unfortunately, it was usually more negative than it was positive. Ultimately, they felt that they couldn't leave him in there as the fifth starter any longer. He was replaced in the rotation with Mitch White, who they acquired in a trade from the Dodgers at the deadline. Mitch White is a story on his own because unfortunately he didn't live up to expectations last season anyway with the Jays, but that's a story for another day. So Kikuchi, he was used out of the bullpen. Initially, we had some mixed results there. His overall numbers in the bullpen were a little bit better than they were in the rotation. Toward the end of last season, I thought I saw something in Kikuchi. So there was a stretch of games that started from September 13th, went through the end of the season, and these were all relief pitching appearances. So I know this is a very small sample size. I realize that. But 5 games, 216 earned run average, 215 weighted on base and average, like that's that's just silly. 15.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.2 walks per 9 innings. Like over that stretch, it really seemed like Kikuchi had found something. I think we're going to see a better version of Kikuchi. That this man, I mean, we hear about it all the time. The Blue Jays signed him. He has a really good arm. In fact, during one of his starts during the season, I remember the broadcasters saying that of the pitchers in the rotation for the Toronto Blue Jays, he actually had the fastest average fastball, if you can believe that. So he is capable of having success in Major League Baseball. He was an all-star with the Seattle Mariners in 2021, had an excellent first half, really fell off in the second half. I've been thinking that maybe Kikuchi could end up being a leverage relief pitcher, almost like an Andrew Miller type, and that's still possible. Before I went on the air, I actually saw a couple of tweets by Shai Davidi, and what he had to say was apparently Mitch White, he started throwing back in early January, and he experienced a right shoulder impingement. So that being the case, he is a little bit behind in workload ramp up. And where everyone's been saying that, well, the battle for the fifth starter spot will be between Kikuchi and White, this could put White a little bit behind the 8 ball in that regard. Meanwhile, John Schneider, as quoted by Shai Davidi, apparently loves what he sees from Yusei Kikuchi so far in camp, and I don't think he means the beard that he grew. Yeah, apparently Kikuchi has made small tweaks in his arm path. He's been working on that and some other things in the off season, and apparently the early results seem to be really positive. So I don't know whether he's going to end up being the fifth starter all season. If he is, then great. Or if he ends up in the bullpen as a leverage relief pitcher. But I think Yusei Kikuchi is going to redeem himself with the Blue Jays in 2023. I think going to have a good season, make a positive contribution to the team, and hopefully be one of the reasons that they not only make the playoffs but make it past the first round and see how far they can go. So, something for us all to watch. Excuse me just a moment. All right, so that's it for the heart of the order, and that's the majority of what I wanted to cover today. And as we're running out of time, that brings me to through Blue Jay colored glasses. So, again, spring training, hope springs eternal. It's a brand new season. We can put the memories of last season and particularly how last season ended in the rear view mirror. Hopefully, most of us have been able to do that, and we're able to look forward and really have some positive hopes about the team moving forward. So, it's been an interesting off season. They've made some changes, and they seem to have improved the team, certainly in terms of their outfield defense, hopefully in terms of their pitching. Eric Swanson, Chris Bassett instead of Ross Stripling. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Hopefully, they won't have lost much, if anything, on offense. Hopefully, Brandon Belt can contribute from the left side. And Dalton Varsho's offensive numbers, also from the left side, that they didn't impress me. But you know what? He's still young enough. He could take a step forward. Hopefully he's someone that we'll be talking about. Most of the people that I know who are Jays fans are already sold on him. So I just want to see what he's got. I want to see that he's more than just a very good defensive outfielder, and defense absolutely matters. But by the time they traded for Dalton Varsho, they'd already signed Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, let's face it, he's here to prevent runs. He himself said his expectation of himself is to play gold glove defense and contribute as much as he can with the bats on a team that's already very good offensively. So he knows the type of player that he is, what he can do, and what his somewhat limitations are. I really want Dalton Varsho to be that much more than that. I want him to be more than just a glove. I want him to be a good hitter that can really add something from the left-hand side of the plate, and hopefully he'll end up being that. I mean, he's got some home runs. There's all kinds of speculation that the shift is no longer legal. Maybe he's a hitter that it can benefit. Apparently, he hits 11 of the home runs he hit last year were in his last 38 games. So that's a fairly impressive pace. That would be a 47 home run pace over a full 162 games. That's also in a different type of park. Rogers Center has always been more of a hitter's park than a pitcher's park, as opposed to where he played in Arizona. And then there's all the renovations and the different changes. So those we have yet to see what impact they'll have on the game. And yeah, it should be a very interesting season. And I'm hopeful that the changes are going to be good, and that we're going to have a really fun Blue Jays team to watch all year round. And I hope you'll be watching along with me. And on that note, that's all I've got for you this week. So have a great evening. Let's go Blue Jays. And I'll see you again in a couple of weeks, maybe with a final transaction to report.